our podcast listeners as well. We're just getting a full block Gemara. We're going to pick up on Kuf Samech Zayin on with page 167b, specifically 5 lines up from the bottom. So the Gemara says the following. Good morning. There was a particular receipt that Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba was signed on. He had signed on to it. So also remember again, this is going from the Mishnah, the idea that after a woman would go ahead and get her ksuba, be paid for her ksuba, husband would issue a receipt indicating that the ksuba was paid. So a particular woman came to Beis Din to go ahead and now Beis Din had produced a shover. Beis Din had produced a receipt that had this woman's name on it, and Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba had signed on the shover. So the woman said, listen, I know that person has the same name, but that's not for my ksuba. Meaning I was never paid for my ksuba. So even though there's another woman with my same name, this document ultimately was not written for me. My husband still owes me the ksuba. Amar ana nami amri lahu lav ihihi. So ultimately, when I first walked into Beis Din, I was also pretty convinced that you were not the woman for whom we had signed the shover some time back. Whereas Rabbi Yirmiyah was saying, you do not look like the woman who we signed the shover for a while back. Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. When you walked into Beis Din, I had said to the other witnesses, the woman, this is not the woman for whom we signed a shover for. However, Amruli, so after I said to the witnesses, this is not the lady for whom we signed the shover, the witnesses says, yes, she is. She's aged. She's aged. Mekash l'kashla means the years have not been kind, right? The years have been a little bit difficult on this woman. Her voice has deep. In other words, she's aged. She's aged, so you don't recognize her because however many years ago or whatever amount of time ago that we paid her the ksuba and we signed the shover, she looked different. Now she's aged. Amr Abaye says, so what do we learn from this Maisa? Amr Abaye afagab dam rabanan. So Abaye says, even though we normally say the principle is kevan sheheged shuv eno chazu amagi. There was like even though under normal circumstances we say that once a witness gives testimony, he cannot go ahead and retract, or I should say recant, and give new testimony. In other words, once you've given testimony in Beis Din, then that testimony is locked in. Should you choose to recant, should you choose to retract, we don't listen to you. Sa'ai. What about this case over here? So I will say this is actually quite interesting. Tosfos has a whole problem with this as well, which is this is not a typical case of kevan shigit shuvin or chosru magid, but rather what's happening over here is the following: that Lamaisa again, Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba said to his fellow witnesses, "This is not the woman." So the Gemara says, even though Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba is quote unquote giving edus, and even once he give edus, he can't recant, he can't retract. But because of us, we assume that a tzur me'Rabbanan Talmid Chacham does not take the time to examine the facial features of a woman. Meaning of us is actually quite interesting. Look at the Rashbam tzur me'Rabbanan second line. Kigon Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba lav darke lemeidak ulahakir b'noshim kolkach. It was not the derech of a tzur me'Rabbanan Talmid Chacham to go ahead and examine the features of a woman to such great degree. And therefore, again, the initial statement from Yirmiyah bar Abba says this is not the woman about for whom we had signed the shover, essentially is irrelevant, meaning that this is not considered to be a case of him retracting and recanting. Rather, again, we assume that when she walked into Beis Din, he did not look at her closely, because the Talmid Chacham doesn't look at women closely. So therefore, again, he just didn't recognize her. But now, again, once she's there and he has the opportunity to see her, he recognizes that, in fact, she is the same woman. So the Gemara goes on. Hahu Tavra, we'll say another case. Hahu Tavra, the Havachasim Ali Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. So we'll say there was another receipt, a receipt for the payment of a ksuba that Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba signed on. Amar lei, lav ana havoy. So same case. The woman comes into Beis Din to collect her ksuba. Beis Din says, but we signed on a shover, we signed on a receipt that you already paid your ksuba. The woman says, it's not me. Meaning, I know that I have the same name as the person written in the shtar, but at the end of the day, that I never got paid for my ksuba. That's not for me. So the Gemara says, Amrle Lav Anabai. Amrle Ivra Ant Havas. So Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba says, yes, it is you. Yes, it is you. So Amr Abaye says, Afagav B'tzor Mirabban Alav Orchei L'Meidok. Even though we just said before that it's not the normal derech of a Talmid Chacham to examine the features of a woman. Kevan Dedak. If he's going to be medayik, meaning if he's going to examine, then ultimately, again, we trust his visual identification. Take a look at the Rashbam. Afagav D'Amr Rabbanon Tzora Mirabanon Lav Orchei L'Meidok. Even though we just said before, Abba said that's what. That is not the normal derech of a Talmid Chacham to go ahead and examine closely the facial features of a woman. So the Gemara says, "Kigon Rabbi Yirmiyah shetan tchila shelo akira afilu hachi kevan da'amar dikdak diyafa ato umakira samchinan alei." When the Talmid Chacham does say, "I went ahead and I recognized this woman," so ultimately we believe him. Kidarmina Gabriel Yirmiyah shesamchinan amash amar lebasof. I actually saw a beautiful idea that Ben Yehuda brings down. He says that these cases are to be learned in progression. Rabbi Yirmiyah realized after the first case that if you're going to sign on a document on behalf of someone, you better be able to recognize them. Because it's possible later on that it's going to be challenged, it's possible later on that they're going to try to collect again. So therefore, again, halacha lemaisa, it is exceptionally important that at the end that you be able to recognize. So in case number one, he didn't recognize the person. Therefore, again, he made sure that when this came up again, that he was able to visually recognize the individual in question. Even though, again, I will say that this is a situation of a woman, and even though obviously, I want to be clear, I just want to put this out there for the record. It's not just the Talmid Chacham who is not supposed to be well-versed in the features of another woman, right? It's every Jew who is not supposed to be well-versed in the features of another woman. There's one woman whose features you should be well-versed in, and that's your wife. Any other woman, you should not be well-versed in her features. So the Gemara says here, but certainly again, the hallmark of a Talmid Chacham is that Talmid Chacham certainly does not gaze, does not look at other women. Amr Abaye, so listen to this. So how does this end? Amr Abaye, Haitzor Mirabanan, the Azul Kedusha Isasat. This is actually quite amazing. So if Abaye says, if a Talmid Chacham wants to go be Makadesh a woman, let's go in the he wants to give Kedushin to a woman, so what should he do? Midbar Am Haaretz Bahadei. He should take an Am Haaretz with him. Why? So that this way at the wedding, you'll invite the Amaretz to the wedding also. This way the Amaretz can attest that it's the same woman who he was Makadesh, and no one performed the swap over here. Look at the Rashba. I will say this is amazing. Rashba says Amaretz shemistakel umakir ben noshin. Listen, now you understand, by the way, the profundity of that statement. The Gemara is giving you a definition. What's the definition of an Amaretz? See, we always assume that Amaretz means someone who doesn't learn a lot of Torah. It's not true. You can learn a lot of Torah. But if you look at women, you're an Amaretz. You're an Amaretz. Listen, this is an incredibly profound yisod. Just as an aside, this is exceptionally important because Lamais, again, one of the greatest nisyonos we have in our generation is histaklus, is looking at things that we should not be looking on. Especially, again, this is not like an anti-technology rant, but again, especially with the internet and everything, and we live in a very sexualized society, one has to be very careful. One has to be careful also even with socialization. Right, socializing with women, socializing even couples. One has to be careful that socialization takes place within the context of Kiddush and Tara. So people think, it's Shabbos Yantiv. I will say sometimes Shabbos and Yantiv could be the most dangerous times for socialization for one simple reason, because there's alcohol involved. And a person just has to be exceptionally careful. A person has to set Gidarm. You hear about crazy things that happen all of the time. You know, as they say, at the end of the day, if there's one area where all of us are weak in life, morality/immorality. And again, no one should ever think that they're above temptation in any way. So here you see the Gemara tells us that what's an Amaretz? An Amaretz is someone who goes ahead and looks at women. That's an Amaretz. You can learn, you know, Shas, Gad Shas, Talmud, Yerushalmi, backwards and forwards. The person looks at other women besides his wife, and unfortunately, again, that's the definition of an Amaretz. Nevertheless, the Gemara is saying, since there are already Amaratzim, so Talmid Chacham at least should utilize it to his benefit. And if he's going to go be Makadesh a woman, he should just take the Amaretz with him, so at least somebody at the wedding will be able to say, yeah, that's the Kala. Now, also, I want to be clear. I'm sure you would have covered this yesterday. But to be clear, remember, Gemara is not condoning this practice of the Talmid Chacham in this case over here. Remember our Kiddushin days. And our Kiddushin days, remember the Gemara says that as much as you can be Makadesh with the Shaliach, remember what did the Gemara say? mitzvah bo yoser mebishlucho. That there's dafka mitzvah to be mekadosh in yourself. Why? What? You should see her. Don't be such a tzaddik. Don't be such a tzaddik. Right? Don't say, oh, I'm only interested in their midos. Don't be just interested in their midos. Meaning, again, a physical attraction is exceptionally important within a marriage. Therefore, a man has to be able to see his wife, his kala, before he marries her. The emergence thing about the mitzias over here. The sometimes the mitzias was such that the Talmid Chacham may not have paid such attention to the actual looks and to the physical parts of the isha. Therefore, you should take the Amma Aretz with him because he'll surely pay attention and he'll be able to go ahead and ultimately again identify the summon for the Talmid Chacham. Good. Says the Gemara. We'll say now we go back there. Habal no sitzchas. Remember again, the Mishnah went ahead and discussed. Our Mishnah discussed about when you need all parties present to go ahead and write a shtar, when you don't need all parties present. But then specifically, the Mishnah focused on who pays for the shtar. Who pays for the shtar? This is a very important yisod. You had a sofer, you had expenses, you had costs. Who pays for the shtar? So the Gemara says, "V'habal no sein schar." Remember again, the halacha is that a husband has to pay for the get. So the Gemara says, "My time, what's the reason?" Because the pasuk says v'kasav v'nasan. Because the pasuk says that the husband will write, the husband will give the get. So essentially, the Torah puts all of the responsibility for the writing and delivery of the get on the husband, and therefore the husband has to pay the sofer. We'll say, but the Gemara says something amazing. So we'll say this is actually amazing. Now this is not our practice. Now we'll say, now the truth is now this is our practice. Meaning today a husband pays for the get. Husband pays for the get. So apparently what the Gemara is reflecting over here is there was a particular point in time where the minhag was, or the halacha was, that the woman paid for the get. If you look at the Rashbam, right across, the Rashbam says, now that we have the wife pay for the get, I will say, why is that? Shaju Rabbanan Aisha ki echid v'lo l'shiyeh. Isabel went ahead and told the wife, you pay for the get. Why should you pay for the get? In order to expedite the process. Because I will say one of the ways in which the husband could drag his feet, ultimately, again, regarding the get process, is to delay payment of the sofer. Therefore, in order to avoid this, the Chazal said to the woman, you pay for the get. Rashbam says, in order to avoid aguna problems, Chazal said to the wife, you pay for the get. So both say, point in time this kind of switched back. I'm not exactly sure, but Lamais again, you see that there was a period. Even though the Mishnah Paskin, the husband pays for it, nevertheless we see a subsequent kind of Chazal, the wife should pay for it in order to avoid agona issues. Kosvin shtar lelo ve'afa pishen mal ve'imo. So remember, the Mishnah said, you write a shtar, you could write a loan document for the borrower, even though the lender is not with him, and it is the borrower who pays for the shtar. Now, the automatic assumption, just in terms of figuring out who pays for the shtar, the general assumption is whoever is the primary beneficiary of the transaction, the transactional beneficiary, whoever gets the greatest amount of benefit from the particular transaction in question, generally is the one who pays for the shtar. So, for example, if there's a borrower and a lender, you have a loan document. So it is going to be the borrower who pays for the shtar because the assumption is that he is the beneficiary of the transaction. So Pshita, the Gemara says, of course he's going to pay for it. Lo tzricha be'iska, to which the Gemara says, no. Let's say you're talking about an iska situation. We'll say, remember again, what's an iska situation? Rashbam says, ma'os lemachtzis schar. So remember, an iska situation, we'll say, is where I lend money to someone. We agree to split the profits, meaning Reuven is borrowing money from me for the purpose of investing in a business. We're going to split the proceeds from the investment. So I might have thought in that case, I, the lender, am a beneficiary as well. So perhaps either I should pay for the shtar or perhaps I should split the cost of the shtar. Kamash malon no, that the borrower is still considered to be the primary beneficiary and therefore he pays for the document. Remember again, Mishnah says, we write a shtar for a seller, even though the purchaser is not with him, but it is the purchaser ultimately who pays for the shtar. So the pshit of the Gemara, so that's obvious, because again, we assume that the purchaser is the primary beneficiary of the transaction, to which the Gemara says, no. But we're talking about a case where the seller is selling his field mipnei rasa. Mipnei rasa means that this is a deficient field. Look at the Rashbam, which is on Mei Rasa, Mum Gadol Sheba, or Rechoka. Either there's something wrong with the field, or is very far away from the rest of the holdings of the seller. And I would have thought the Havamina is that since the seller has a vested interest in moving this asset, therefore, again, he should have to pay for the shtar, or at least pay some part of the shtar. Kamash Malano. Kamash will say that we still see the purchaser as the primary beneficiary, and therefore it is the purchaser who pays for the field. And Kosvin Shtare Erisin. So remember, again, we say that you do not write Shtare Erisin without the presence of the Chassan and the Kala, but yet again it is the Chassan who pays for the writing of the shtar. To which the Gemara says Pshita. The assumption over here, again, it is the husband. It's interesting that the automatic assumption is the greater hana of this transaction, quote unquote, is for the husband. It is the husband ultimately who is receiving a wife, and therefore ultimately he should pay for the shtar. It's obvious. Lo tzricha was to listen to this. It's lo tzricha. It's necessary to teach the following case. So we'll say even in a case where, let's say, the chassan is a Talmud Chacham, and again, every father wants to marry his daughter off to a Talmud Chacham. So I would have thought that in this case, again, it is the Kala's family who is the true beneficiary of this union, because the Kala father-in-law is getting a Talmud Chacham as a son-in-law, and therefore perhaps he should be the one who should have to pay for the shtar. Kamash Malano. Kamash Malano said that it is the chassan who is considered to be the primary transactional beneficiary, and therefore he pays for the shtar. Weiter. Ein kosin shtar arisus v'kablonos. So I will say again. Remember, Mishnah spoke about again that you need the presence of both parties in order to write a sharecropping document. And who pays for the cost of the document? The sharecropper. So the Gemara says Pshita. Again, I will say once you know the principle that whoever is the primary transactional beneficiary is the one who pays for the document, then all of these cases become somewhat obvious. So obviously, the sharecropper is going to pay for the document because he is the primary transactional beneficiary. So why does Mishnah have to tell me that he has to, which the Gemara says, Lo tzricha bebora. We'll say, what's the case of Bora? Look at the Rashbam. Shetzarech lahovira shana ushnasayim ve'in revach atva makabel. We'll say the case over here is where, sometimes you have to leave fields fallow for a particular amount of time. So let's say the first year of the sharecropping arrangement, the field was going to have to lay fallow. In that case, I would have said the sharecropper is not the primary transactional beneficiary. Kamashma, even in that case, he's still considered to be the primary beneficiary, and therefore he has to pay for the shtar. You can only write shtari beirurin, right, with the consent of both parties. To which the Gemara asks, "My shtari beirurin." And we'll say, what is a shtar beirurin? What is this? Hacha targimo shtari ta'anasa. So we'll say here in Bavel, they shtari ta'anasa. We'll say, what are shtari ta'anasa? Look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Shtari ta'anasa shnei sofrei hadayonin hayu kosvin tainas anshe hariv. So you know what this sounds like? This is like the court record, the stenographer. So when people would come to give eidos in Beis Din, you'd have the stenographer recording their eidos. They must say, why do you want somebody recording their eidos? So first of all, because if somebody changes their story, you want to be able to know that. You also need a court record in order to be able to chazer over the testimonies, in order to be able to render their decision. So we'll say it costs money. It costs money to have the court stenographer. So therefore, again, the Gemara says that both of them have to pay shared costs in the stenographer. So the Gemara says that's the first opinion as to what shtari beirurin is. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba Amar zeh bar lo echad v'zeh bar lo echad. Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba says in Abba what it refers to is the following: shtari beirurin Abba is like this. When two people had to go to Beis Din. So this is assuming there's not a Beis Din kavua. If there's not an established Beis Din in town, so what would often happen is each of the parties to the dispute would have the right to choose a dayan, right? So Reuven chooses his dayan, Shimon chooses his dayan, and then those two dayanim together choose a third. That process was committed to writing. They wrote down this process, and that's called shtari beirurin. So we'll say machlokes. Does shtari beirurin ultimately mean the record of the court proceedings, the record of the eidos of the litigants, or does it mean the record of each of them choosing their dayan? Either way, this is the type of document that I will say both of them have to share the costs. Listen to this. So the Tanakhama, the first opinion in the Mishnah said, we write one shtari berin, meaning we write one document. Let's go with the first approach. One document that contains the testimonies of each of these individuals. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that if the litigants say they each want their own document, then kosvin shtaim zeva atzmo zeva atzmo. Each of them want their own document. In other words, Ruvain says, I want my testimony contained in my own, I don't want my testimony with yours. I want my testimony in my own document. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that we allow them to write two different documents. So the Gemara says, what's the machlokes? So we'll say there's machlokes in Tanakama and Rav Shimon Gamliel. Rav Shimon Gamliel says that when we record the testimonies, we record testimonies in what? In what? One document. And even if the parties say, no, we want two documents, we do not listen to the parties. We only write one document. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, no, if one of the parties involved wants his own document, we give him his own document. So what are they arguing about? Lema bekolfen amidas stom kamif. This is quite amazing. Perhaps they are arguing about whether or not we could compel someone regarding midas sdom. Now, what does this mean? Take a look at the Rashbam. It's about 8 lines up from before it gets wide. Lema bekolfen amidas sdom kamif. So says Rashbam. Midas sdom kidis. Now, what's midas sdom? Homer shali shali shalach shalach zel midabenos. So both say if a person says what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours, so the Mishnah identifies this as a midabenos, right? I'm middle of the road, not a tzaddik, not a rasha. The yeshomim zomidas dom. And some say, no, Rabbi say, this is in fact midas sdom. Lema tanakam, Rabbi say, midas sdom, Rabbi say, that term refers to people who refuse to do good for the other, even when what? That good doesn't cost me anything. Whereas Rabbi say, do not do good for the other because it's going to cost me. That's certainly not good, but I understand it. Not everybody's willing to spend money. Not everybody's willing to be mahana the other with their own funds, fine. But to do good for someone, to refuse to do good for someone, when it doesn't cost you anything, then we'll say that's just mean-spirited. We call that midas sdom. So watch this. Lema tanakama savar shnehem nosten schar v'nosten shtar echad ben shnehem. Tanakos will say that under normal circumstances, when people come to Beis Din and they go ahead and what? They contribute, they have to write a shtar be'erin. Both of their testimonies are contained within one document. And both of them share the cost of that document. So watch this. Tanakama Savar, Shteim Nosten Schar, they both therefore contribute to the cost of the document. V'nosten shtar echad ben shnehem. And there's one document for both of them. V'im yomer echad mehem lo etein aschar, ki ani chafetz shehe li shtar echad levadi, u'lishtar acher, v'yesh shali shali, v'shalach l'shalach, kofin oso v'osin echad, ki mash amar midas stomhi, Reb Shimon Gamliel Savar in Kofin. So perhaps the machlokes is the following. The Tanakhama says, I don't understand, under normal circumstances, what's supposed to happen. Both of their claims are supposed to be recorded in one document. And if one of the litigants says, no, I'm not contributing towards that document, I want my own document, and you should get your own document. So the Tanakhama says, we call that midas dom. And you know what? When it comes to midas dom, we don't listen to you. Kofin al midas dom. We force a person not to be a sodomite. Right? And therefore, again, we will force you to participate ultimately, again, in this joint shtar. And therefore, again, we're not going to listen to you. Rather, you have to participate in joint shtar. So the Tanakama holds kofin al midas dom. Rabbi Shimon says, no, in kofin al midas dom. Yeah, the guy's a jerk. For some reason, he wants his own shtar. But l'maisa, if somebody wants to be a ben sdom, so l'maisa, at the end of the day, we're not going to force him not to. It's a free country. Everybody can do what they want. And therefore, again, he could get his own shtar. Yes, by him getting his own shtar, what does he do? He necessitates the other getting his own shtar as well. But we don't force a person not to be a ben sdom. To which the Gemara says, the Gemara says, fine. Lo, alma kofin. So Gemara says, no, that's not true. In fact, again, lamaisa, we're kofin on midas dom. When we see someone acting like a member of Sdom, right? We force people to behave appropriately. This, of course, is something that we lack in today's disorganized community. When the Gemara talks about kofin al midas dom, they have organized communities with batei din, with strength, with teeth. So a Beis Din, when they saw someone acting inappropriately, had a mechanism to be kofin al midas dom. If you were behaving like a sodomite, so lemaisa again like a midas like a ben dom, so lemaisa we have the ability to be kofin al midas dom. Machlokes over here. V'hachayim taima the Reb Shimon Gamliel the Amar lei lo nechelei that the heavis husech gabis husi the domis alai ki arye arba. So let's listen to this. Reb Shimon Gamliel says because when one of the parties involved wants his own shtar, so we'll say there's a good reason. But one of the let's say Reuven and Shimon come to Beis Din, they're having a disagreement. So under normal circumstances, what happens? We record both of their claims in one shtar. Suddenly Reuven says, I don't want one shtar, I want my own shtar. I want my claim to be in one shtar, I want your claim to be in a different shtar. Why? Because it was like court records, so sometimes or very often court records were public record. So what happens? So Reuven says, Shimon, I don't want you having access to my written testimony. You know why? Because you are like a crouching lion, right? It's very apropos to this past week's parasha, right? I don't want you having access to my records because you're going to try to deconstruct my statements. And therefore, again, I'm happy with the court to have access to my records, but if our claims are recorded in the same shtar, then you're going to have access to my records by virtue of the fact that what? You have access to your records. Therefore, what I prefer is for our testimonies to be recorded in two different shtaros. Therefore, again, you don't have access to it. Take a look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam says, the damis alai arye arba, kol shosh etirak sav, tavo alai ba'alilos tanosecha ksuvimbo, v'sham tira tanosai, navo lidei meriva, ki ish merivos ato. So Reuven says to Shimon, you are a contentious personality. You will say, ki ish merivos ato. No, will say, sometimes when you tell people that they're a fighter, they take it as a compliment. But it's like, very often it's not a compliment, right? If you're a fighter, for certain causes, that's a compliment. But there are some people, Rabbi say, who are fighters for every cause, and they always like to just fight. That's not a compliment. That is a horrible meaning. So Reuven says to Shimon, Ish Marivo Sata, you're a fighter. You're a contentious malcontent. I do not want you having access to my written testimony because you're going to deconstruct it and you're going to constantly enter into machlokus. So both sides. So the shaila ultimately is, does Reuven have the right therefore to order two different shtaros or not? Tanakama says no. Tanakama says Beis Din has a process, and the process is that the testimonies are recorded within one written document. Rosh Gamliel says no. If I am concerned about ongoing machlokes, I have the ability to go ahead. I, as one of the litigants, have the ability to order two different documents. But I both say both the Tanakama and Rosh Gamliel will both agree that what kolfin al midas stone. That when someone acts in an unreasonable manner, in a totally unreasonable manner, and I will say in a matter where a person's taking a stand that is to someone else's detriment and the person gains absolutely nothing from that. So I will say even in those circumstances, everyone will agree that kolfin al midas stone. Fine. So we'll say it happens to be we don't pass like Rav Shimon Gamliel in this case. We pass it against Rav Shimon Gamliel in this case. And at the end of the day, the halacha is that we go ahead and we do not order two different documents. Rather, all testimonies are recorded in one document. Says the Mishnah. We'll say new Mishnah. This is really a fascinating case. So let's listen to this case. I borrowed $10,000 from Reuven. So it turns out I paid back $5,000 of it. I will say, so the Rashbam points out over here, I don't really want to go through the process of writing a shoulder. So here's the concern. The document says, I Shmuel Silver, borrowed $10,000 from Reuven. I now paid him back half. We have a problem. On one hand, I don't want that document sitting in Reuven's hands. Why? Because that document says I owe Reuven $10,000, but I don't owe Reuven $10,000. I only owe him $5,000. On the flip side, we're both a shtickle cheap, so neither of us really want to go ahead and pay for a sofer to draft the receipt for the $5,000. So we have come to a good compromise. Let's give the shtar to Shimon. Let Shimon hold on to the shtar, and therefore again Shimon will know that I already paid back $5,000. Release the document to Reuven until I pay back the other $5,000. Well, I make the following tonight. So we'll say, so what do I say? I say, Ruvain, here I say to Shimon actually, Shimon, if I don't pay off the remainder of the debt, the remaining $5,000 to Ruvain in the next 30 days, give Ruvain back the shtar. And I will say, now what happens if Shimon gives Ruvain back the shtar? What happens? Shimon now has the ability to go ahead and, Ruvain has the ability, he now holds the shtar that says that I own $10,000. Which I will say is another way of saying, I'm saying to Shimon, if I don't pay the remainder of the debt in 30 days, give the document back to Ruvain, and I agree to once again repay Ruvain the whole $10,000. In other words, what I'm saying over here is that if I go ahead and I don't pay back within 30 days, I agree to pay Ruvain essentially a premium of $5,000, an additional $5,000 above and beyond the original value. I will say, what about ribis, right? What about interest? It's not a problem. Why? Because essentially what I'm saying, in my statement was what I'm saying is, if I don't pay the remainder of the debt within 30 days, that first payment of $5,000 should be considered what? A gift, and I still owe him the full $10,000 of the note. So we'll say, so listen to this. Higia Zman v'lo nasan. Higia Hazman, right? Higia Hazman. So we'll say, so we again, you don't have to finish mission. We always know how these stories end, right? The best intentions. So 30 days elapse, I still have not paid the remaining $5,000. So we'll say, now the shaila is what? Shimon, the one who's holding the note. What should Shimon do? Yomer, Yitain, Rabbi Yossi says, Shimon, listen, a deal is a deal. You should give back the note to Ruvain. And now Ruvain has the right to collect $10,000 from me. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, Shimon, you should not return the note to Ruvain. Rather, you should continue to hold it. So we'll say, so what's happening over here? Says the Gemara b'Maikim. So we'll say, what is the nature of the machlokas? Rabbi Yossi savar asmachta kanya. Rabbi Yehuda savar asmachta lo kanya. Rabbi say, here we go. The fundamental machlokas, Rabbi say, is what do we do with an asmachta? What's an asmachta? Take a look at the Rashbam. Asmachta, second wide line, the widest lines. Hamaftiach lechavero davar al manas sheyaseh davar la'asid v'somich beliba b'shas hatnai sheyuchal lekayim hadavar k'sheyagia hazman u'k'sheyagia hazman ye'anis v'lo yuchal lekayim. What's an asmachta? Essentially, an asmachta is an exaggerated promise that you never really think you're going to have to carry through on because you're confident in your ability to fulfill the Tanai. So we'll say, so again, what's an asmachta? An asmachta is our Mishnah. I owe Ruvain $10,000. I paid him $5,000. I say to the whole group, Shimon, in 30 days, if I'm not back, give him back the shtar. We'll say, what am I thinking? I am able to make this ridiculously exaggerated promise because I'm uber confident in my abilities to go ahead and pay off the remainder of the loan within the allotted time. But Shabbosai, now there's a caveat to this. I'm so confident that what? I don't really believe in what I'm saying. In other words, do I have deep down an intent to pay him the full $10,000 if I don't deliver after 30 days? And the answer is no. Why? Because I'm totally confident in my ability to pay off the remainder of this debt within the allotted time. So both sides, not only is an exaggerated promise, but it's an exaggerated promise in which I, the promisor, that's the right word, the promisor, the person who made the promise, I have absolutely no intention of carrying through on this. Not because I'm lying, but because I have no intentions of allowing the situation, the transactional reality, to getting to this point where this tonight is actually davar shabali olam. So I'm willing to, we'll say, this is my simcha chol yom. People make exaggerated claims or exaggerated promises that they have no intention on delivering on. Not because I'm lying, but because I'm never going to allow the situation to get to that point. I'm never going to allow the non-payment to get to 30 days. So I'll say, so the shaila is shkayach, but now 30 days elapsed, and I didn't pay off the remainder of the debt. So what's the status of an asmachta? And we'll say, what is the status of an exaggerated promise that I never really had intention to carry through on because I assumed I would fulfill the details of tonight before that asmachta came about. So now if I didn't, is asmachta kanya? Is asmachta binding or not? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yossi sabra asmachta kanya. Rabbi Yossi says, yes. Listen, you know what, dvarim shevalev einam dvarim. Whatever you think, I don't care what you're thinking. What do we care about? We care about what you're saying, what you do. You made it tonight, and tonight is, I promised that if I don't pay off the remainder of the debt in 30 days, Shimon, give back the note to Ruvain, and I now owe Ruvain the full amount of the $10,000 value of the note. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, so Rabbi Yossi says, Rabbi Yehuda Savar, Asmachta lo kanya. It says that an exaggerated promise of Bosai is not kona. When we know, now, how you know when something is an asmachta or not is a different discussion, which we'll actually touch on a little bit later. But the idea is if something is clearly an exaggerated promise. So something is clearly out of the norm. If I paid $5,000, to say that if I don't go ahead and pay 30 days later, that I'm going to be chayiv the first $5,000 as a gift, and I'm going to be 5 minutes, that's ridiculous. That's clearly an exaggerated promise. Rabbi Yehuda therefore says it's not kona. So we'll say what would happen in this case over here? We would tell Shimon, hold on to the note. Beis would tell me, Silver, you're still chayiv the other $5,000. Make a payment plan. Pay off the $5,000. Amrav Nachman, Amrav Rabua, Amrav Halacha Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say Rav Nachman sitting Rabbi Rabua. That's the name of Rav. That the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. We'll say Rabbi Yossi Paskin. Rabbi Yossi said Asmachta Kanya. So ki asala kamet Rabbi Ami Amar Lahu. V'chine achash Rabbi Yochanan melamdenu pam rishona pam shniya halacha Rabbi Yossi. Mani asa. So we'll say, what should I do? So said Rabbi Ravua, we've learned one time, 2 times, we learned so many times that the halacha follows Rabbi Yossi, that Asmachta Kanya. So what should we do? And we'll say, how does the Gemara end? The Gemara says, Ve'ein halacha Rabbi Yossi. I don't care how many times you learned that. We'll say, we paskin Asmachta lo Kanya. Asmachta lo Kanya, that Rabbi Yossi, an exaggerated promise. Exaggerated promise, ultimately, again, is not a binding promise. I will say, just so you should know, this ties in to another very important yisod, which is, I will say, the Gemara says, someone who is a gambler. So first of all, besides that, he doesn't have a chelik in olam haba, which we're not going to discuss today. He's pasal le'edus, right? A gambler is pasal le'edus. Why, Rabosai? Because the Gemara says he's like a gazlan. He's like a thief. Why is he like a thief? Rabosai, because the Gemara says something amazing. The Gemara says that when people gamble, and everybody puts their money in the pot, right? Everybody puts their money in the pot. Shabbos says, so no one assumes that what? No one assumes that they're going to lose. Shabbos says, even someone who says, I don't play to win, everybody plays to win, right? In fact, it's sad if you don't play to win. Everybody plays to win, right? So therefore, again, I will say what happens when everybody puts their money in the pot. Let's say I go and I win, shkoyach, that I won, except what the Gemara says, it's gezel. Why is it gezel? Because I'm taking all of that money against their will. But 1 second, but Ruvain and Shimon and Levi, Yehuda, the Gansolim is putting their money in the middle of the pot. They're clearly relinquishing it willingly, to which the Gemara says it's an asmachta. They say they're putting their money in the pot and they're ready to lose, but what? They're not ready to lose. And I will say, we pass in asmachta lo kanya. We pass in that when someone makes an exaggerated promise or an exaggerated statement that we know they don't really hold by, that ultimately, again, it does not create a binding reality. Therefore, it turns out that when I am the gambler and I win, and I end up taking money from other people, in fact, that is tantamount to an act of theft. That is tantamount to an act of gezel, and therefore I give them a sachik, but kuvi is going to be pasulate. It's incredible.
What conditions have to be in place? Exaggerated promise and no kavana that you're no intention to follow through. Both. So correct. Meaning the idea is, as Yachal bring up, the more complicated piece is now how you define an asmachta. In other words, but yes, the answer is technically yes. Whereas clearly an exaggerated promise. Now the automatic assumption is when you're making exaggerated tanoim, the assumption is that your intention is you're never going to have to follow through on this. That's your default intention. What constitutes an asmachta? We'll say is a more involved discussion. Says the Mishnah. We'll say again. It just gets better. It gets better and better. I don't know what to say. Misha nimchak shtar chovo. We'll say listen to this. Somebody comes to Beis Din, and these are really interesting cases. And we'll say it's so interesting. We live in such a different age where if you have a document that's important to you, so what do? Save it.
Right, you back it up. Right, we have everything backed up. So it's amazing to think that once upon a time, things weren't backed up. Right, meaning once upon a time you had a document, and it was you had to guard that document with dear life. And if you didn't guard that document, mamish, like you had nothing. So you're talking about situations where people can lend incredible amounts of money, and all you had was mamish, a piece of parchment. That's what you had. So listen to this. Someone shows up. I show up in Beis Din. Misha nimchak shtar chovo. So as I show up in Beis Din, what happens? I have a shtar but my star was erased. How does that happen? Look at Rashbam. We'll say third line from the bottom. We'll say what happens. The kids, it's always the kids, right? What happens? They're having a water fight, and they're right in my office, right by my star. And we'll say, what happens? Water gets on the star, and the print now becomes smudged. Something happens. So mamish, Ashogim Bezdin, I lent Ruvain $10,000. All I have is this piece of parchment. The kids had their water fight. I love them. I still love them, but mamish, right? So it says, so what do I do? So ma'amid I love Adim, Bava Basra, va'osan lo kiyum. So we'll say, so what happens? Essentially, I need to go ahead and gather the Adim. Get the Adim. Rashbam says, ma'amid I love Adim. Hayodim me'emasai nichtav. So I have to get the Adim who know when ultimately, again, the shtar was written. They know when the shtar was written. Uma kasubo. Them osin lo kiyum b'fnei bezin the kosvin lo mashahaya kasu ba'osa shtar vazman vamos. So the simple answer is it's okay. I just have to get the Adim, and hopefully the Adim remember. Hopefully the Adim remember what they went ahead and they signed on. They remember the date of the transaction. They remember ultimately, again, the amount of money in the transaction. And again, halacha l'maisa, everything. So therefore, again, what we do is we reconstruct the shtar in front of Beis Din. Look at that. Go back to the Gemara. What's the kiyum? Bosai? Ish ploni ben ploni nimchak shtara biyom ploni. And they write in the document the following: so and so, the son of so and so, his document, right? His document was erased. Biyom ploni. I will say again: nimchak biyom shtar biyom ploni u'amad beis u'ploni edav. So we'll say essentially what we do is we reconstruct the shtar. We'll say we have a similar shtar today where we have a ksuva the erkisa. If you have a situation where a couple loses their ksuva, it happens. We'll say it's actually very important. You should always know where your ksuva is, and more importantly, your wife should always know where her ksuva is, right? So nice again, if for some reason a ksuva is lost, a couple is not permitted to live together if they do not have a ksuva. So we have a text called the ksuva the erkisa. Right, it's not that we don't have this is not the one you put on your wall if you want to hang up your ksuva. There's an interesting discussion about putting up ksuva on a wall in general. But so this document essentially says that this couple did get married and the Edim were so and it happened on so and so days. The Gemara just says if you have a document and your document got lost, or for this matter over here in this case, I'm actually showing up with a document, but the document is smudged, the document is erased. The Gemara says not a problem. Get the Edim. And with the Edim, we will reconstruct that same document in Beis Din.
What if you don't remember who the Edim was?
You better take up the night shift at 7-Eleven. I don't know, whatever you have to do, you're not getting your money. Says the Gemara. So what's the text? What's the text of this type of kim? I will say, what's interesting over here is you're going to see this type of document actually can be quite powerful. Because not only is Beis Din going to reconstruct it, but if the Edim are there, Beis Din could actually certify it as well. So this could be essentially like a shtar and a sharta, a handpick, a shtar, and the kiyum stars all in one. So when I talk about an ezu kiyumo, the kiyum. Somebody, what's the text of this type of kiyum? B'mosav tlas sahavina. So we'll say in the presence of three judges, we the following: anu ploni uploni uploni. Hotzi, so we'll say in the presence of the three of us represent the Beis Din. In the presence of Ploni, Ploni, or Ploni. Hotzi, Ploni, ben Ploni, shtar mochok lifamin. So and so, Ploni ben Ploni, produced an erased shtar in our presence. Beyond Ploni. And he brought this shtar before us on so and so date. Uploni edav. And so are the witnesses. So we'll say, so watch this. Im kasabo. Who's kaknu le'edusan shel edim, v'nimtzas edusan mechuvenes. So we'll say if the document then says testimony of the witnesses, we verify the testimony of the witnesses. V'nimtzas edusan mechuvenes, and it turns out that their testimony was correct. Gova. It will say essentially they're able to reconstruct the shtar. Ve'in tzarich lahavi raya. It will say now what does it mean ve'in tzarich lahavi raya? Meaning Beis Din reconstructs the shtar and simultaneously does what? Upholds, certifies the shtar as well. Therefore, no further kiyum is needed for this shtar, and this shtar becomes a bona fide vehicle of collection. Ve'in lav But I will say, if for some reason Beis Din was unable to go ahead and certify the document, then tzarach lahabirai. So we'll say what the Gemara is pointing out over here is the following, and we'll get into this more. But the Gemara suggesting will say that sometimes Beis Din could reconstruct information based on the testimony of people, but yet Beis Din cannot go ahead and necessarily attest to the veracity of the information. In other words, we'll say, if somebody shows up in Beis Din and they says, I lost my document, Beis Din could reconstruct it, but we'll see under certain circumstances, if Beis Din is able to certify the testimony of the witnesses to a degree that they feel fully confident that the shtar is not only valid, but they could certify it, then they can certify the shtar as well. Other times, all they can do is certify what is being told to them, but they can't necessarily put their stempel on the shtar itself. So the shtar will still require an additional level of certification. It says, we'll say, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. In Kasabo is Kaknu. Look at the Rashbam. Sha'amdu elu bezin ha-mekaimin. Dechakru edim ha-chasuin bo lohoida chasimasan. V'nimsa divreim mechuvanin. Gova misman rishon ha-kasav b'shtar. Ve'in tzarech raya acheres. So we'll say, the idea is, remember, the power of the shtar, we'll say, is the date of the shtar, of course, is the date in which they're coming before Beis Din. But the real date of the shtar is on a both side. Remember, if I'm the holder of the shtar, what I want, what date do I need in the shtar? The original date of the transaction. Why Rabosai? Because the encumbrance generated by the shtar is as of the date of the original shtar. So if Beis Din is able to go ahead and ascertain that indeed this is a valid shtar, they can actually include the original transactional date, thereby certifying the original encumbrance. However, again, the imlav, but in some reason Beis Din is not able to certify this document in the fullest degree. We'll discuss why. So we'll say, otherwise, if Beis Din cannot go ahead and certify this, then the Baal Shtar will have to find some other mechanism for upholding this shtar. Nikra, they both say, watch this. If the shtar was torn, puzzle. Niskara, kasha. So we'll say, Nikra, the Rashbam says, is al yidei adam. If the shtar was clearly torn by someone, then the shtar ultimately again will be puzzle. Niskara, however, if the shtar was torn by itself means by accident, the Rashbam says, once by accident, the shtar will be kasha. We're going to define what this means in just a moment. Nimchak o nishtashtish, we'll say if the shtar was erased, or nishtashtish, we'll say means it was smudged. Im rishumon nikar kasha. Say if the original print is still recognizable and the shtar is kasha, so we'll say let's go back in this brisa. Hechi dami nikra, hechi dami niskara. So we'll say, remember again, what did the brisa say? If the shtar nikra was torn by a person, then the shtar is puzzle. Niskara, if the shtar was torn by itself, then it's kasha. So it says the Gemara Shkaya. How do I know the difference between a shtar that was torn by a person or a shtar that was torn by itself? To which the Gemara says, Amar Yehuda, Nikra kara shel Beis Din. Niskara kara shel Beis Din. I will say Yehuda says, Nikra means that the shtar was torn. What does it mean it was torn by someone? It was torn by Beis Din. Niskara means it wasn't torn by Beis Din. Hechi dami kara shel Beis Din. How can you tell if a document was torn by Beis Din? Amar Yehuda, listen to this. Makom edim umakom hazman umakom hatoref. Rabbi say, when would Beis Din tear a document? When would they tear a document? When it's already been fulfilled. Or as Rabbi say, Beis Din, if they know that a document is, let's say, a loan has already been paid, Beis Din will tear the document in order to ensure that the document cannot be used for collection again. But when Beis Din tears, they tear in very specific places, namely the place where the witness is signed, the date, and the Torah. For both, remember again, the Torah, there's the Tofes and the Torah. The Tofes is the boilerplate, is the general generic information. The Torah is where you have the name of the parties, the amounts of the money. So if you see a document, they're both say torn in these specific places, the witness's signatures, the date, and the Torah, then what? They will say that is clearly an intentional tear. That was done by Beis Din. That was done by Beis Din in order to invalidate the shtar. So if you see a shtar like that, then you know that the shtar is puzzle. On the other hand, again, if you see a shtar, we'll say that just as what? Stam ripped. But the rip seems to be a bit more haphazard. Then again, I will say it's just possible as an accident, and the shtar could still be kosher. Abaye says, Shasi va'arev. Abaye says, I will say that when Beis Din would go ahead and tear a document, they would tear it Shasi, I will say, Shasi means crisscross, right? Length and width. they would tear it in a way where across, right? I guess maybe across either it means like an X, shasivari, or it can mean across the length and across the width. The idea being that they do it in a way that looks like a premeditated tear. Fine, supposed to listen to this case. Hano arvoi, the asula pumpadisa. There were these Arabs who came to Pumpadisa. And I said these Arabs were forcibly taking land from Jews, from people. So what happens? This is actually very interesting. The land came up for Abai, and it said the following: Amarle, lechse mar shtare, velichtov lan mar shtara achreinu alei. So they came down with an interesting request. Abai, look, we come here with the deeds to our land. We purchased this land, we bought this land, it belongs to us. What we're asking you is the following: examine the shtar. If you believe that we are indeed the bona fide owners of the land, then what we're going to ask of you is do the following. Write for us another document of ownership. This way, when the Arabs come and take our land, we will see. The problem was when the Arabs took the land, they didn't just take the land, but they were smart. What did they do? We'll say everyone knows that if you want to go ahead and delegitimize someone's claim to land, what do? You take away their historical claim. Oh, sounds a bit familiar, right? If you want to go ahead and delegitimize, someone's going to say, so just to take someone's land is not enough. You have to say that the others never owned it, right? You have to say that someone else owned it earlier. So the Arabs, there is nothing new in humanity. You think Hebron is the first time that someone tries to take something from a Jew by claiming that they don't historically own it? You think this is a new thing? They were doing it in Pumpadisa also. So we'll say, so again, what these Arabs were doing was a very incredible thing. They took the shtaros. They didn't just take the land. They took the shtaros also. So these landowners come to us and we have a problem. If they take our shtar, here's the problem. If somebody takes your land and they take your shtar, what's your recourse? Almost nothing. Look, you could bring eidos. You could bring eidos to what the Arab did. You could, but lamaisa again, that eidos, meaning if the Arab is strong enough to take your land and strong enough ultimately again to take your shtar, the Pashas is not going to be any eidos that undermines his abilities either. So what do you need? What you need is a shtar that backs up your ownership, so that when everything comes down a little bit, you'll be able to reclaim your land. So they come to Abai with a great chah. Abai, write for us a second shtar of ownership. Abaye says, the misnes chad naktinan chad biadan. Let's say if the Arab takes one shtar, we'll take the other shtar in our hands. Amarlahu, my abedluchu. Abaye says, I'm sorry, I can't help you. The Amar of Safra, ein kosin shnei shtaros asada achas. Rav Safra said, Abosai, you can't write two documents of ownership on the same parcel of land. Why? Dilma tarif v'hadav. We'll say this is amazing. Because the Sarfa was concerned about time. We'll say, watch this. This is mamish amazing. I come to Abai. I say, Abai, listen, the Arabs are about to take my land. Do me a favor, write for me another document of ownership. Abai say, I can't do it. I'll tell you why. Because it was like, let's assume I bought this land from someone. So we'll say, when I have a document that says that I buy land from someone, that doesn't just solidify my ownership. What else does it do? In the event that the person, we'll call it Reuven sold it to me. If one of Reuven's creditors comes along and what? Seizes the land from me, and both say, what do I have the ability to do? I have the ability to go back to Reuven and now seize land from Reuven, or seize land from someone else who Reuven sold to after the date of my transaction to make myself whole. And both say, what's the danger, therefore, of having of ownership? That you could go ahead and potentially seize land from others, either from Reuven or from people he sold to after the date of my transaction illegally. So Rav Safra said, you cannot write two documents of ownership on any one piece of land, because it could potentially allow the owner of the land to illegally seize land either from the person he purchased it from or from someone else who bought land subsequently from the same person I purchased from. The difference is, if I am so sorry, I can't write the document. So I'll say, listen to this. Habukatar delay. So Randy Abbas says, so it's rumored that Jews sometimes can be a little bit tenacious, right? So what happens? So they won't let them go. I will say, understandably, so all kidding aside, they have the potential to lose their holdings. So they're not going to let Abaye off. Look, you have to write the documents for us. So we'll say, so Abaye, now again, what the circumstances around this are, I don't know. But Abaye feels that for whatever reason, He cannot reason with them. They are being unreasonable. And they're not stopping. So we'll say, so what does Abai to do? He can't write the document, but apparently he feels he has to do something. So Abai says to his scribe, Zil kasav lahu al hamachak ve'edav al aniyar. So we'll say, what does Abai do? Abai needs to just give them something. So he says to his sofer, okay, write for them a document that claims ownership, but here's what I want you to do. On an erased piece of parchment, but sign the witnesses on a non-erased piece of parchment. I will say that we're bekim in this already. What's the halacha? If you write a document on the text of the document is on the erased piece of parchment, and the witness is signed on an unerased piece of parchment, I will say, what's the status? It's possible. Why? Because that is an easily forgeable document. How so? You can ultimately, again, erase the signatures, right, and go in and write more and sign afterwards. So essentially what Abaye says, now you're going to see what the Havamim is over here, but essentially what Abaye seems to be saying to the sofer is, write a document, write on it again, and sign the witnesses on that. And therefore, again, give them their document. They're not going to know the difference. Get them off my back. But at least I am not in violation of Rav Safra's ruling. So we'll say 1 second. So Rav Achabar Yumi says to Abai, but 1 second. Maybe the original text of that first document is going to still be, so we'll say the Havamina is that what Abai was saying to the Sofer was write the full document, erase it, and rewrite it again. So Rav Achabar Yumi says to Abai, but 1 second, maybe the rishum, the print of the first document is still going to be visible. And we just learned about that, what Rabbi say. If you have a document that's been erased or that's been smudged, imishumo nikr kasher. If the original print is visible, then what? The document is kasher. So Rabbi say, if that original print or some rosh of the original print is still visible, then you're going to have Rabbi say what? A document written on an original piece of parchment with signatures on an original piece of parchment, and the document, in fact, will be good. Aleph Beis Ba'alma Ka'amina. Sabai says, no. Do you think I instructed the sofer to write a real first shtar and then erase it? No. What I meant to do is just write some Aleph Beis on it, erase that, make the parchment in erased parchment, sign the witnesses on that, and ultimately, write the shtar, and that's sign the witnesses on the unerased piece of parchment. The shtar will be possible, but at least ultimately it will get them off my back. So we'll stop over here for today. We will continue in Mirat Hashem tomorrow with the other mechanisms available. In the event that a person went ahead and lost the shtar, or a person went ahead and ultimately again had the shtar erased, or a person has to reconstruct the shtar and base.